I want you to imagine you're in a history class. The year is 2100, 70 years on from the global Holocaust. Such was the brutality of this worldwide purge of Jewry in the 2030s that Hitler and the Nazis are consigned to relative obscurity, a mere footnote for the main story. That's not a denigration of the unimaginable horror of the Shoah, but a measure of what we're about to face. Because for all the talk among British Jews, whose entire number is dwarfed just by the yearly migrations alone of the Islamists taught to hate them, leaving the UK, the question is, where? When children learn about the Holocaust today, many wonder why Jews didn't leave Germany sooner. The reality is that, even among those who could afford to up and leave, few expected things to get as bad as they did so quickly. By the time it became clear escape was impossible. Still, many did flee in time. Now, a lot of people mistakenly believe Anne Frank was Dutch, for example. The truth is that the Franks fled their native Germany for Amsterdam. They didn't imagine that Hitler's tentacles would slither into their new home. Others really did escape to far-flung parts of the world, but today's world is much smaller. In a horrific reminder to Jews that there's nowhere safe, last week, masked arsonists firebombed an Australian synagogue, an anti-Zionist one, with its congregation alive inside. Fortunately, most escaped in time, with 2 seriously injured. The synagogue was destroyed. Similar attacks have taken place across Europe, coinciding not with a rise in the far right as Keir Starmer and the Euro elites would have us believe, but with the spread of Islam across the continent. Just this week, the Oxford Union became an anti-Semitic cauldron that jeered Jews out of what was supposed to be a civilized debate. While Brits stoop to authoritarianism to arrest people for social media posts about burning a mosque, an abhorrent act to even consider, Islamists and political extremists actually do burn synagogues. We don't yet know the identity of the arsonists. The culture has become such that this is just as likely a far-left indoctrinated student as a far-right nationalist or Islamist. What is unquestionable is that the new mass arrivals of Muslims to the West has made it a far scarier place for Jews. Those who believe I am being unfair or Islamophobic need look no further than Pew Research. Nearly all in Jordan, 97%, the Palestinian territories, 97%, and Egypt, 95%, hold an unfavourable view of Jews. Similarly, 98% of Lebanese express an unfavourable opinion of Jews, including 98% among both Sunni and Shia Muslims. Negative views of Jews are also widespread in the predominantly Muslim countries surveyed in Asia. Did you know that illegal migrants will no longer be able to cross to the UK from Germany thanks to a new deal between the two countries? I didn't, but I do now, thanks to today's sponsor, and I'm so grateful they exist. Ground News. Ground News is the only place I go for news now because it's the only place I found that actually tells you where the news is from, who the source is, and how biased it might be. Let's take a look at this story about Germany stopping smugglers on boats from getting into the UK. Ground News has 44 articles covering it, and you can see that these sources lean right, whereas Germany's Der Spiegel leans left, so you'll get a different slant. I love this tool, the bias distribution. You can see that it's a story the left simply aren't covering. This tool is essential to see what each side is trying to hide. And just as important is some introspection with my news bias. That's the only way to know whether you're missing fascinating perspectives. I use it every day. I couldn't do this job without it. I insist you give it a try. You won't regret it. Go to ground.news/Andrew to access diverse perspectives and uncover the truth. Subscribe through my link for 50% off unlimited access this month. That's ground.news/Andrew. More than 7 in 10 in Pakistan and Indonesia, 74%, express unfavourable opinions. A majority in Turkey, 73%, also hold a critical view. With almost 1 million immigrants arriving in the UK each year, what did we expect? For all the stereotypes around Jewish power, the fact is that Muslims outnumber Jews in the world by 127 to 1. Due to birth rates, this disparity grows larger by the day. It means that contrary to the myths, Jewish influence in institutions and public opinion is decidedly low, while Islamist narratives spread unfettered. As always happens when bad ideas prosper, they start with the universities and institutions before filtering down to the masses. Just look at this outrageous slur from one such institution, which employed propaganda that would make Goebbels shake with enthusiasm. Amnesty International is a charity that has tried for some time to convince the world that women have penises. It has also grossly lied about the number of intersex people in the world. But here is a new low for this evil enterprise. According to Amnesty International, on the 7th of October 2023, Israel embarked on a military offensive on the occupied Gaza Strip of unprecedented magnitude, scale, and duration. The idea that Israel started a military offensive on the day that it was attacked is an outright lie. But like so many lies about Israel, such as the accusation of genocide, it deliberately subverts the tragedy that the Jews and Arab Israelis suffered at the peace festival at the hands of Hamas, a terrorist group little different from Al-Qaeda or ISIS. By reinventing October 7th as the day Israel embarked on a military offensive, when in reality it was being invaded, brutalized, and they blame the Jews and take away their right to mourn as victims. Although the most egregious, it is not the only lie in the first line alone. The Gaza Strip has not been occupied since 2005. Like many anti-Semites, it continues to vilify and lie about the only Jewish state, one the size of Wales, that is mostly desert and has a tiny population. It is one of the only beacons of democracy, equality, and civil rights in the Middle East. And yet, our charities, our politicians, and our activists go after it while turning a blind eye to the atrocities carried out in Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Yemen, to name a few. I recently admitted that I was initiating the complex procedure of trying to obtain an Argentinian passport. In typical fashion, my online adversaries reimagined this as an Israeli passport, leading many on the far right to attack me as some other, read Jew, who has special rights in this Middle Eastern country whose language I don't speak and whose culture I don't know. Regardless, just as in Australia, Islamism is invading South America. With the invention of TikTok and other global social media networks, this is a PR war that the Jews are too numerically insignificant to win. We need your help, and we need our governments to put a stop to immigration this instant before considering deportations for those who have broken laws in this country, a standard that is the norm in many other nations. One must hope. My videos on YouTube that raise this issue and related ones amass hundreds of thousands of views. Most of my viewers are not Jewish, nor are they racists or Islamophobes. And you support me. Part of this is that you know that once Israel is gone, you are next. But most of it is a genuine desire to defend liberal ideas against forces of illiberalism. May we win out, and may we avoid the global Holocaust. This was originally written for my Substack, which you can find on andrewgoldheretics.com. Join the 23,000 followers over there.